right now. Bring your punk ass out here so I can dog walk your punk ass.
Oh, Jey Uso. Roman's had enough, and now exchanging
The bloodline has officially fractured into a million pieces, but what happened live on WWE Raw has just exposed a terrifying secret that changes absolutely everything you thought you knew about Roman Reigns' Jacob Fatu and the true future of the head of the table position. If you think this is just another standard wrestling rivalry, you are about to be proven completely wrong, because a hidden piece of footage from this exact segment reveals something so shocking that it could mean the literal end of Roman Reigns' career as we know it, and by the time we reach the final seconds of this breakdown, you will understand exactly why the locker room is currently in a state of absolute panic. The entire wrestling world is losing its mind over the visual of Jacob Fatu being trapped in the ropes, but almost nobody noticed the real reason why Jimmy Uso looked absolutely terrified. Before the physical violence even started to truly understand the psychological warfare that took place on Raw, we have to go back to the exact second Jacob Fatu stepped into the ring holding that microphone with an eerie demonic smile on his face that sent shivers down the spines of 30,000 fans in attendance. Jacob Fatu did not just call out the OTC, he systematically insulted the entire legacy of the Anoa'i family, calling Roman Reigns a punk ass and demanding he come out to be dog walked in front of the world. This was not just trash talk. It was a calculated trap designed to expose Roman Reigns' biggest weakness, a weakness that we will break down in just a few moments, because what happened next left the entire arena in a state of pure disbelief before Roman Reigns could even step through the curtain. The classic theme music of the Usos echoed through the stadium, sending the crowd into a frenzy. But as Jimmy and Jey Uso walked down the ramp, their faces told a completely different story. There was no confidence, there was no swagger, there was only a deep, paralyzing fear gripping the hearts of the most decorated tag team in modern history. Jimmy Uso took the microphone and his voice was literally trembling as he tried to talk sense into Jacob Fatu, playing the role of a desperate older brother trying to prevent a literal murder from happening inside a WWE ring. Jimmy pleaded with Jacob, reminding him that he lost everything at Backlash, and that by putting his hands on official management he was about to be fired permanently from the company. But then Jimmy said something so deeply personal that the entire arena went dead silent. He asked Jacob if he truly wanted to go back to that dark old lifestyle, back to the days of prison and struggle, instead of giving his kids the big bags, the better schools, the bigger cars, and the luxury they deserve. He asked him if he wanted to throw his entire life away just to serve a ghost. But look closely at Jacob Fatu's face during this emotional breakdown, because while Jimmy was pouring his heart out, Jacob was standing there, laughing like an absolute psychopath, completely untouched by human emotion. And right here is where the first major twist happens, a twist that sets up the massive mystery we will solve at the end of this video. Jey Uso, whose hot-headed temper has ruined countless plans in the past, simply could not take the disrespect any longer. He grabbed a heavy steel chair from ringside, and with every single ounce of strength in his body, he smashed it directly into Jacob Fatu's spine. Now, normal human logic dictates that a steel chair to an unprotected back should drop any athlete to their knees. But what happened next defies the laws of physical science. Jacob Fatu did not blink, he did not flinch, he did not even register the pain. Instead, he slowly turned his head around like a scene straight out of a horror movie, looking at Jey Uso with cold, dead eyes that signaled immediate execution. Before Jey could swing a second time, Jacob Fatu lunged forward and locked Jimmy Uso into the legendary Tongan death grip, a move so inherently dangerous that it physically cuts off the oxygen supply to the brain within seconds. Jimmy began to violently convulse, his eyes rolling back into his head as his body slowly went limp. Jey Uso, desperate to save his brother's life, smashed the chair into Jacob back a second time. But Jacob Fatu is a completely different breed of human monster. He took the chair shot, turned around, and locked Jey Uso into a simultaneous Tongan death grip, using his sheer freakish strength to choke out both multi-time world champions. At the exact same time, the image of the Usos completely fading out on the canvas was a visual nightmare. But just when you thought the segment was over and that the Usos were going to be carried out on stretchers, the arena lights dramatically shifted, and the iconic cinematic theme music of Roman Reigns blew the roof off the building. The OTC walked out with pure, unadulterated hatred burning in his eyes, stepping into the ring like a conquering king returning to protect his kingdom. Roman did not hesitate for a fraction of a second. he immediately unleashed a brutal barrage of right hands into the jaw of Jacob, Fatu shifting the entire momentum of the night. But pay extremely close attention to what happened when Roman went for the finishing blow, because this is the exact moment where WWE hid the massive clue about what is going to happen at the upcoming Premium Live event. Roman Reigns backed into the corner, loaded up his right hand, and leaped into the air for his signature Superman punch, but mid-air Jacob Fatu displayed a level of athletic agility that should be physically impossible for a man of his size. He intercepted Roman's arm in mid-flight and locked the Tongan death grip directly onto the throat of the head of the table. The crowd gasped in absolute horror as the tribal chief himself began to lose consciousness. But the story doesn't end there, because Jimmy and Jey Uso, using the absolute last drop of adrenaline left in their bodies, rose from the dead. Jey Uso connected with a thunderous superkick to Jacob's jaw, but incredibly Jacob did not let go of Roman's throat. It took a second synchronized superkick from Jimmy Uso to break the grip, followed by a devastating top rope Uso splash that finally grounded the monster. Roman Reigns seized the opportunity, and alongside his cousins they physically trapped Jacob Fatu's arms and legs within the ring ropes, turning the unstoppable beast into a completely defenseless sitting duck Roman stood face to face with, his cousin whispering words of absolute dominance, telling him that he started too many fires and now he was finally going to get burned, before screaming into the heavens and blasting Jacob Fatu with a ferocious Superman punch that rattled his entire skull, followed instantly by a thunderous spear that physically snapped the ropes and sent Jacob Fatu crashing hard onto the concrete outside the ring. Roman grabbed the microphone and yelled at management to fire him with pleasure, declaring to the world that the threat had been neutralized. The crowd was chanting Roman's name, the music was playing, and 99% of the fans thought the video package was ready to close. But what happened next is the exact reason why you cannot afford to turn away from this video, because the real psychological trap was just about to be sprung as the Usos tried to celebrate. Jimmy was actively pleading with Roman, saying they don't need this anymore, that the fight is won, and they need to leave right now. But Jacob Fatu, bleeding from the mouth, coughing up blood, and visibly broken, crawled his way to a dropped microphone outside the ring, and with a sinister bloody smile, he uttered two words that instantly stopped the music and turned the entire arena into an icebox. Tribal combat. For those who do not understand the terrifying gravity of those words, tribal combat is the absolute highest form of warfare within the Anoa'i family dynasty. It is an ancient lawless match where championships are irrelevant, where referees have zero authority, where weapons are not only legal but encouraged, and most importantly, it is a match that cannot end via standard disqualification or countout. It is a battle of literal survival that only ends when one man completely breaks the spirit of the other, or leaves him physically unable to breathe. Jimmy Uso was practically begging Roman Reigns not to look at him, shouting that they don't need this madness, that Jacob is a demon who wants to take everyone down to hell with him. But Roman Reigns, the man who built his entire identity on pride and absolute supremacy, could not back down in front of a global audience. Roman turned around, locked eyes with his bleeding cousin, lifted the microphone to his lips, and uttered the fateful words, "I accept," which instantly set up the most highly anticipated and dangerous match in the modern era of professional wrestling. But here is the ultimate question that nobody else is asking right now, the question that WWE is actively trying to hide from the fans, and the exact reason why this upcoming tribal combat might be a massive trap for Roman Reigns. If you look closely at the physics of the entire brawl, Jacob Fatu absorbed 3 unprotected steel chair shots, 2 synchronized super kicks, a top rope Uso splash, a Superman punch, and a full-force spear. And yet less than 30 seconds later he was conscious, smiling, and actively orchestrating the exact match he wanted from the very beginning. This raises a chilling conspiracy theory. Did Jacob Fatu purposely allow himself to be beaten down and trapped in the ropes just to bait Roman Reigns into accepting a match where there are literally no rules? Because in a standard wrestling match, Roman Reigns has the tactical advantage of experience. But inside the lawless wasteland of tribal combat, Jacob Fatu's unhinged psychopathic nature makes him the most dangerous entity on the planet. And if you think the Usos will be able to save Roman inside tribal combat, you are forgetting the most sacred rule of the Anoa'i dynasty. Once tribal combat is declared, no family member is legally allowed to interfere without facing complete excommunication from the bloodline, meaning Roman Reigns will be completely alone inside that ring with a man who does not feel pain, a man who smiles while bleeding, and a man who has officially sworn to take the head of the table title by force, which leaves us with one final terrifying realization that will be answered the moment the bell rings: is Roman Reigns walking into the greatest victory of his career, or has he just signed his own professional death warrant inside the ring?